I know we have a low turnout tonight, but it's also Holy Week for our community, so a lot of our churches do a combined service, so a lot of our members could be at those services, because I know we didn't have a meeting tonight, that's probably. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. There are agendas in your seats. We're going to start with our invocation and go right into our pledge. So you can stand. Our chaplains are going to come and do that for us. Thank you, Ms. Tracy.
Most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time that you allowed us to come together. And most of all, we thank you for life on today. And we thank you for giving us the strength to be here on today. And we thank you for the wealth of knowledge that we're going to receive. And help us to be good stewards in what we receive tonight. In your name, amen.
Oh, where's our flag? Oh, it's over here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. I want to take the opportunity to make sure I recognize our guests. We have our City Councilman, Guy Towers, here with us tonight, along with Sharon Felton, our Beach District Board member, our Commissioner of Revenue, Helen's here with us tonight, and we have some other guests that are here tonight. Officer Dean's going to be filling in for Captain McBrien tonight, and David Rock with the Sierra Club, and yeah, we've been working with our team on some zoning issues with our Parks and Rec, and we also have Worth Ribbon, who's here, and he is hoping to run for City Council for District 6. Okay. So welcome and thank you all for coming. And again, I know we have a Slim meeting tonight, but we're also recording it, so we'll be able to share it on our YouTube channel. Okay. So we're going to start with Brandy, who is our Parks and Rec representative, followed by Officer D.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for coming in tonight, and I'm pleased to come up here and talk about some of the happenings here at Seatack Recreation Center. First is a reminder that we'll be closed on Easter, so don't forget that. We have a blood drive coming up May 11th. There is a flyer at the back of the room. Remember redcrossblood.org to make an appointment. We'd love to have you all here to make a blood donation. Yes, May 11th. It's in the afternoon time. I believe it starts at 2:30. We also have quite the milestone coming up on April the 19th. The City of Virginia Beach Seatack Recreation Center, 1997, opened up here, so that's 25 years. So we are going to have some treats and such available pretty much all day. I think that's next Tuesday. So if you all just want to stop on by, we're going to have like a big giant birthday card and just some other little things to celebrate. And some of our programs that we have coming up, I think I talked about some of these last month, but just in case, we have a dodgeball tournament coming up. There's a flyer in the back for that. We have our pickleball paddle battle coming up June 4th and 5th at Red Wing Park. Flyers in the back for that. We've been hosting beginner pickleball clinics and been hooked on climbing with the rock wall in the gymnasium, and we are all full for all of our currently advertised classes for that, so that is amazing. I know that I talked about this last month, but I just want to bring it back to the forefront. We have our Forever Young program here that's meeting Mondays and Thursdays from 10 to noon. That's for ages 55 and up. So if you all know and we are looking to expand that program back to, pre-COVID times, okay? And we are also planning a Juneteenth celebration here. So stay tuned for details. I should have more information for that at the next meeting. Right, and that's all that I have.
Yeah, and keep me posted on that. I think we would like to be a part of that.
Certainly. Yeah, that's great. Any questions for me?
Where will the blood drive be set up?
It's going to be in our gymnasium. Yep, right here at Seatack.
They do a really good job with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really well organized. The appointments make it really easy. It's not like, it used to be you would show up and wait for an hour. You can pretty much make an appointment.
And they have some really good videos that, what's the lady's name? She's
Silver.
Silver.
Okay.
Something like that. Silver sent me, and I sent out a lot of videos, like I posted them on Facebook for people who might be fearful or had some concerns. And there was a couple who were youth leaders in like a ministry, and they came to give blood to the blood drive that I was working. And neither of them given blood before, but she particularly was very nervous. So I went over with my phone and I let her watch one of the videos. And it was a video where these kids came in and they were thanking them for giving blood. And then at the end of the video, they explained why the blood was so important, like it saved their lives, it would save the life of one of their parents or whatever. And then they're like all crying. Well, she was so distracted by the video, she had no idea she was already done with her blood. So it really made a difference.
All right, thanks you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, everybody. I think I met some of you on the Zoom call the other night. I'm Will Dean. I'm one of the lieutenants at the 2nd Precinct. I am the night shift commander, which means I run pretty much everything at night that works. There's 2 of us, so lucky me, I guess. It's have to bring one. Not a whole lot going on other than we did mobilize the entire department this last weekend, thinking that we were going to have a college beach weekend at the oceanfront, and it turned out to be much of nothing really. However, the stats, let me pull them up. We did get 22 guns collectively in the 2nd Precinct between stops on the oceanfront, the interstate, at the ocean, a couple at the oceanfront, and then on other interactions with individuals that are obviously coming down to do some heavy robbery, committed by sailors, actually, believe it or not. And then no college kids were arrested, so because we didn't see many college kids. So if you're not familiar with what's going on with us, on March 7th, we had social media is our animal we're dealing with right now. It's good and it's bad for us. So the bad part of it is that these events will all of a sudden just pop up. Someone will put out a flyer, they'll put something out on TikTok, they'll put something out on Twitter. Unlike Captain McBride, I'm not too all into all that. I think I have a Facebook account I use like twice a year for birthdays and stuff. But it's very prevalent, especially in the college realm and the younger generation.
fight, one person yells gun, everyone starts running. It's a stampede type situation. So what we do as officers, we hide behind a pole, hopefully we hide something, we hide behind, they come by us, we're not going to stampede ourselves. We had 3 or 4 injuries from that in the crowd. It was actually a fight that happened going down to the sand as it was getting dark behind the Dairy Queen. Someone yelled gun, everybody started running. If you yell at them, they run by. What are you running for? They go, we don't know.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
People running, we ask questions later.
Yeah, they just want to get out of there.
If somebody's running, we're running with you.
We're going to call it, we want to go. So, but we had no issues. We made a few arrests, but there were, just that was normal stuff the oceanfront can deal with, intoxicated subjects, something like that. Other thing over the weekend we had, as you might have heard, a fatality coming off the interstate to Peabody's at the bunker.
Yes.
So that was, we have heavy enforcement on the interstate. We asked our state police partners to load up the troopers, which they graciously do on these weekends when
They were out
mobilized.
there.
And they were out there, we were out there, they were out there, and this trooper was not running radar, he was just driving normally. And this car blew off his doors at a marked police car at about 100 miles an hour. He got hammered at that pace at near 100 miles an hour. He tried to stop him. Once he crashed Parks Avenue, the trooper realized he's not going to stop, so he turned off his lights. Once he stopped across Parks, hoping that he would slow down, that we weren't chasing anymore. He did not. He approached the camera, we call it Pacific. He swiped another car. Thank God there was no one in that right lane. So he had a clear path. That's what he was trying to do, but he put that last car in the center lane. It spun him out of control. He hit our camera, the utility pole, which slowed him down, going into the bunker. But he was killed on impact. The company officers were trying to get him out of there. The car caught fire. They got some smoke inhalation, but they're okay. Some debris, thank God. Again, there were the citizens right there on that corner. We had a low impact, low turnout as far as the crowd was concerned. You can imagine if it was a busy weekend, the concern we would have if it was jam-packed down there. So we were fortunate in that regard. One person went to the hospital with some shrapnel, some debris from the young Marine in me, some debris that came off the car, but they're fine too. So all we know about the individual is that he was suspended, so he didn't want to get stopped by the trooper, and he had prior DUI, so we don't know there'll be a toxicology report. State police is doing that investigation since they were chasing him. But we were right in our command center in 2nd Precinct. State police was 2 lieutenants and sergeants right next to us, so we're all watching it as it unfolded. So we had a great response to that. We had a lot of officers down there, obviously, so it might have been some inconvenience for people that were driving around. We had to shut that down for a while, but other than that, it was pretty good. So our animal with this is going to be as a police department, that we respond to every flyer. Every party that pops up on TikTok or Twitter, that they're going to have a beach party. Do we mobilize the department for, not to necessarily shut it down unless we know there's going to be violence, but to have the police presence in case something goes bad. If we do that every weekend, because these flyers come every weekend, we would exhaust the police department. I'd have nobody working, and money-wise, to mobilize the entire police department costs a lot of money, as the councilman will tell you. So it's the amount of overtime we got to pay, the cancel days off to bring the whole department in. So we're wrestling with that right now. Not to say we're not prepared for that. We're going to definitely have our extra component that has come down here on actually the Thursday before. All the transfers came down. We'll have more coming around Memorial Day. So we have already had extra officers in this precinct, which is, I like it. My other lieutenants in the other precincts are upset that I stole from a lot of people. But we sent out 10 officers from each precinct down here. So we've got a pretty good size force here. And got the tools in place we need to reallocate resources where we need them. So the homeless issue, we're still dealing with that with some of the camps that are around here, Sykes Avenue, a few others. We have been working diligently on that with the city and the landowners to find the services and get the resources that we need to, that's not necessarily clean them up, but yeah, it's clean it up, I guess, and then get them the help and do what they need to do. I know you all have that for years around here. So some noise complaints on Southern Boulevard here. I've had a gentleman over here call me often about the storage unit and people working on cars and running them up and doing stuff in there. So no we've been begging the city attorney for a while to work on this code and change it. It was probably about 10 years ago, the Virginia Supreme Court struck that law down, so we're trying to get it changed. So that would be a great tool for us. I think right now we look for voluntary compliance. We walk up to them, we ask them to turn it down. It's enough, usually they do. Same with houses and parties. We go there and we say, hey, and they don't have a good time. They don't want to use their door. They want us in their backyard. So
I wish they were in their house. My problem is they just sit in their cars, and I could hear their music upstairs in the back in my house.
that used to be a clear violation. You could hear it through a wall.
Uh-huh.
I can articulate to a judge and they find out, they feel, that was like a piece of others, but now we're having that law changed, it changed the whole realm of what we had to do. So
The new standard, I hope, will be clearly audible from 50 feet.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to work on.
yeah.
Whether the courts will, help us enforce that is another item.
Yeah, it's always another issue with us. I try to remind my officers that we're not the judge and jury. A lot of times they don't want to force things. They go, well, we take them to court, they just get dismissed. That's not our job in law enforcement. Our job is to enforce the books. If the courts want to dismiss it, or they want to handle it their way, that's the different part of the criminal justice process. So if the city council gives us a law, we can enforce the noise ordinance a little better, we will. So that's how I look at that.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We seem to have a homeless problem,
Yes, we do.
and now that they're not behind the jackrabbit, they're running up and down the lanes, and you don't know who's dangerous, or you don't know what they got in mind. You feel sorry for them, but at the same time, you got to protect yourself. It's kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's good to be hyper vigilant and keep an eye on what's going on with them, and we are working on that. We have community resources that are coming in. We've got city services that come in and deal with their homes. This has been an issue since I've been here 29 years. It's been a problem for a while. Some of them want to be in that environment, some don't. So we go in there with the resources and offer them the stuff that we can to help we can to get it done. We also work with the property owners behind the jackrabbit who owns these some pretty prominent attorneys actually owns the property back there in the city. And they usually work with us as far as posting trespassing when they can't do things. They moved the community center there at West Dump Road, the city built years ago. That we used the lighthouse down there. So that's with a lot of people that use those services that direction. The ocean front, the atmosphere down here, the tourism, those kind of things that some of them like to be around is still going to attract them down here. So when in doubt, call us. We with the police department will respond to every call for service. We're not going to say no. It's just the same old homeless guy. We're not coming. If you feel there's something going on that's illegal or you feel odd, you just call us and call the non-emergency number and call us and we'll respond out. We'll just keep an eye on things. I mean, they have rights. There's laws. There's certain things that we can't approach them for whatever reason is. We can't tell them they can't be in certain areas. There's public areas they can be in, in the corners and the sidewalks, those kind of things like that, as long as they're not obstructing things. So we're there. Yeah, absolutely call us, and we continue to work on it. We have a whole team at the Second Precinct. Sergeant Ball and his team with the resort liaison that are constantly working on those issues.
What about senior land?
Yeah.
And, what's the name on Main Street?
We got Sykes Avenue, we got that one. So we're working on it. Yeah, I just got assigned this precinct. I'm trying to wrap myself around all of them too, but we're definitely aware of them. So if there's any concerns you ever have, just call us. We're more than welcome. And you all have my email too, and I constantly run my sergeants and officers when we have muster prior to going out to make sure they're waving the flag, so to speak, just like we do with the ocean front. Drive around and just let them know that we're near. So if they're thinking about any type of illegal activity or thinking of causing any problems, give us a call. So one of the issues that one of my night sergeants brought up is you see a lot of them at the ocean front. They'll sleep in the nooks of the businesses, like when they're closed. Well, there's laws for that too, about if they're doing that, and the business has to provide for them a bathroom, also stuff like that, if they're allowed them to be on their property. So we work with the businesses to kind of get them in places where they need to be and have the resources. There's shelters available, so a lot of them just don't want to take our services, don't want to take what we have to offer. So that becomes a problem. They want to be where they're at, do what they're doing. They want to live in the woods. They want that's a choice they've made.
That's their choice, right?
That's their choice. So
Right, and when feel that they're in danger or they don't know,
Yeah.
they're calling my house
Yeah. Yeah.
and showing up saying, these people are living behind us and what can we do?
Yeah, well, if they're on private property, okay, and they're not allowed, that's with anybody, that's trespassing. So
Yeah.
they've been told not to be there, we will go evict them. But back in these wooded areas where they go, it's owned by somebody, okay, but the property owner hasn't, so trespassing, they have a sign posted, or you have whoever's in charge of the property, whether it be the resident or the owner, tell them, they gotta have that warning, that they have to know they can't be there. So until they're told they can't be there, it's not trespassing, they can be there. So that's what we have to deal with that.
Well, I'd like to piggyback off of the young lady up there. I'm one of the people that call, that I live over by the Jackrabbit store, and I call frequently. I moved from Chesapeake, I've been here for about almost 2 years now. And the biggest problem that I was having is the traffic that was coming by my house, and the homeless were laying in my yard, throwing up, using the bathroom beside my house, waking me up all times of the night. All kinds of stuff, and I've called the police, I would say at least 25 times since I've been living here. They had built makeshift forts and stuff at the road in the back, and Councilman Tower, they took care of that problem very swiftly, and we really appreciate that. But what happened was, the influx of the people that were in the woods come out of the woods, and now they're living right across the street between Kenya, behind 1098 Kenya Lane and Atlantis Apartment. And there's another little piece of woods right there. And they're right up at the front of the road, and they're hanging clothes and selling stuff right there.
You said 1098 Kenya?
1098 Kenya Lane. There's a little patch of woods right at the front of the road right there. And they're infiltrated in there, making noise all night long. Like I said, I've called the police several times, first precinct, second precinct, the non-emergency line. I was working with the lady at the Jackrabbit who lived above the Jackrabbit, and we would kind of help each other. It was pretty much my only neighbor. And they were throwing bricks through her window, busting into the Jackrabbit, all kinds of stuff. I had no idea that Virginia Beach had such a bad homeless problem, else I would have stayed where I was. So I'm here to try to get somebody to help me, because I live right there, and I'm losing sleep, and they're trying to break into my cars, all kinds of stuff.
I'll get your name and number before I leave, and I'll definitely have to touch one of my sergeants at night, and we'll get over there. But yeah, first of all, we got to know that there's a problem, and we'll respond to it. It's a constant problem for us as well. Like I said, we got to find, one big thing is identify who's that property, where they're staying, where they're camping. Once we do that, then we can hopefully get them moved out of the area. We go in there, we tell them, if you're going to allow them to be there, there are laws that says there's facilities that you have to maintain. It's just like renting to anybody, okay? If you're going to allow them to be in there, you've got to have facilities, you got to have restrooms, you got to have this, you got to have plumbing, you got to have this, certain things you got to have. Once we start explaining the codes the city has, they're usually very, very willing to say, well, yeah, we'll put signs up and get the people out of there. So, so I understand your pain. You'll definitely, I don't understand that I live there, but I'll definitely get the resources out there we need to deal with that. Continue to call. I know it's frustrating sometimes. You call a non-emergency number, or you call an
Emergency, first precinct, all I left my number, email, everything.
Right. We'll work on that for you. I wasn't aware of the specific issue, but like I said, I just transferred here, so I'm still wrapping my head around all that. So
Now, Penn Ministries back there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You ready on that corner house?
Yes, ma'am.
It's Penn Ministries, and they do a lot of stuff for the homeless. I think they help, they feed, they also have, I think they also get medical, but I also think they do medical and dental. But it's PIN Ministries. I know that they do some stuff on the weekends with about
Nick knows all about it. Okay.
Yeah, so they're back there.
Exactly how I'm going to call. Have you talked to Sergeant Ball, Nick Ball?
No, but I've talked to David, the pastor that runs the Penn Ministry, and we work together also to try to.
Yeah, I'll definitely give you who I'm going to refer you to. I mean, not that he's been great, but that's his job. He's the sergeant, second precinct, Nick Ball. He's our resort liaison, but also we give him the homeless. That's his thing. Instead of just given to one of the duty sergeants who has other things going on, trying to handle calls for service in the precinct. That's actually one of his tasks he can concentrate on.
I spoke with his secretary and left a message with her already. I've done all of that.
The cap secretary?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
which we're in transition to get a new one, but, so yeah, I'll definitely make sure that's followed up for you, absolutely. So, we're more than willing to help to resolve those situations, because as much as it's a pain to you, and you're right, what you're doing, it's for us, it's taxing on our resources as well too, especially when they start doing things, throwing bricks, or getting intoxicated, or using drugs, or this is what you do. So,
We appreciate everything you do.
I appreciate it.
Is the substation open yet on Miami Avenue?
I think it's still being retrofitted, so I think by Memorial Day it's going to be fully used and operated, as far as what we do with that. Cat had lunch.
I've asked for a report on that too, because about what's holding it, just make sure they don't need anything from us.
Yeah, I mean, I know this weekend they were going in and out of there. I don't think it's anything on city level. The business owner who, we regularly take care of that.
I think he had more problems than
Furniture, yeah,
we
way
knew
more.
when to retrofit it.
Yeah.
We got in and went through some walls, and there was all kinds of
Yeah,
problems.
those buildings have been there a while, and I can only imagine all that partying and alcohol and everything else that's gone through those.
So with the other one on Pacific Coast?
No, it'll be there. We're still gonna use that. We're still gonna use that. The one that actually on the ocean is gonna be definitely a visual thing for us, and community interaction, everything from recruiting to resources to the chapels will be there. And
One of the chaplains.
so, we're gonna use that a lot, down there, for that. The one on 24th Street is like right outside of line, a place we also could get a break when they need it, especially like around light for several hours, they go in there, they relax, the windows are tinted, but it's still available if they need to.
So that's the one that's it.
I give a plug for some of the business owners. I know they didn't need it because they didn't have the crowds they expected, but I think the Atlantic Avenue business owners all stepped up a lot. Had a lot of water and snacks and stuff for the
We've got a couple of the restaurant association, the bar association, and all the restaurant associations down there, and it's very helpful. They bring food in, they bring water, they're very supportive. So we go to meet with them too to address the issues and try to pre-plan things going on. Captain Brown's very engaged with that, so we're definitely getting involved with that. So.
Oh, I was gonna ask him if he heard any more about the community day for Atlantis. So,
Okay, I'll ask him about that. He did not mention that to me.
because they did say they were gonna time.
They just said they were gonna do one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because I just wanna make sure we're, part of
The notes I had from the last meeting, I think she said she's maybe in June, she's gonna try and do something. But we're there fully supportive of it. The captain buys ice cream for all the kids, and actually got that ice cream machine put in the precinct, by the way, for the officers. Yeah, so yeah, I agree.
yeah, I think we just follow up, that'd be great.
Yes, I'll look at that.
Okay.
Anything else? From the police department, well, we appreciate community support. I can tell you from the officer standpoint, me being here 29 years, we definitely feel the community supports us, city council supports us. The trend nationwide, that was defund the police nationwide, did not happen in Virginia Beach. We still have recruiting and retention problems, obviously trying to keep the officers we want, because the new generation wants to stay a few years and leave, but there's people, old farts like me can retire. We're doing better in that area, but we appreciate the support that you all give us on a daily basis. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Tower, you're up next.
You're fine, stay there.
Thank you, President Taylor. I'm not going to keep you long. I just want to remind you, if you didn't know, or advise you that it's budget time in the city. And the city manager's proposed budget. It's got a slight increase in the tax rate, which I think a lot of people are going to probably take shots at. I'm not blaming anybody. It's all in our court now for the city council. And we want to hear from you. So if you've got any thing you want to tell us about budget, things you think we need to do, and where we ought to spend our money, what the tax rate ought to be, anything that's on your mind, please come and tell us. There are 2 public hearings. One is on Wednesday, the 20th of April. person, you can attend via your computer. Then there's another meeting at City Hall. You may have read or heard that the new City Hall is now open for business, by the way. And various departments are in the process of moving. City clerk has moved, the city attorney's moved, city treasurer's, I think, moving this weekend, right?
We're open at 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Open tomorrow morning at 8. So people are moving in. The only thing that's not moving in is city council.
Yes, I read that in that.
And that's because there have been some supply chain issues with the technology of being able to display slides and stuff, and we live on slide decks, seems like. So, but we'll move in June, I think, sometime in June, start having city council. So anyway, the meeting in city council chambers in an old building, old city hall building, which is called building number 1, is at on Tuesday the 26th of April. That's also at 6 o'clock. You also need to call the clerk's office before 5 o'clock if possible to get on that agenda. And if you guys could spread the word about that, or anybody have any, either on the revenue side, the taxing, or the spending, we're happy to hear from you and encourage you to come. The only other thing I wanted to mention, by the way, the new City Hall building, I hope if you're in the neighborhood, you can come and visit. It is a beautiful building. The new City Hall chambers seat 350 people. Every seat has a plug. You can plug, charge your phone or whatever, anything else you want to charge in there. It's going to be very nice. There's even some offices. City council members have we have no offices. We have no staff. We don't have any staff, and now we have offices. I'm not sure how much I'll use mine. It's a long way from home. There are some offices in there for staff. But it'll be good to have everybody in one building. I'm sure it will really improve the morale of all the people that have had to work in those buildings, because they're not in good shape. Now, that building's going to be completely rehabbed, and I think the planning and
Public utilities.
public utilities going to ultimately be in the building. But they even changed it. The address of the new building is going to be the address of the old building. The old building will have a new number and a new address. But the city hall will keep going. It'll be building number 1. I don't think I have anything else that's pressing, but I'm happy to answer some questions. Anything you want to talk about?
Well, of course, we are, we look at the budget and we review all of that. We've been looking at the capital improvement plan, and we've been talking to Parks and Rec, Michael Hirschman, and they did a beautiful presentation to us about 3 different options that they could do to renovate our rec center, what we could do. But then on the 6-year capital improvement plan that that's being proposed, we're not in there.
And there are a lot of other things not in there in terms of Parks and Rec. They have probably, in relationship to their needs, to the amount that's been available to them budget-wise, and even with increases, they probably have the biggest gap between needs and funding. And I think part of it is because it's such a big city. I mean, it's 300 square miles. Right, everybody wants a park. Everybody wants a big park, and they like small parks for little kids. The needs are great, but I'll talk to Mike, and we'll keep pushing cities so ultimately council can affect it. So I'll see what I can do.
No, we'll be complaining, don't worry. the thing is, I mean, there were other rec centers in that presentation that they showed us. I don't want to make it seem like we were the only ones that was in there. It was just that, it was presented as the next time we came up to a planning period, which is the one coming up, and it's 6 years. It's not like a one-year plan, it's 6 years. And we're not even a footnote. And that's the thing, I think it's.
Well, we, just so you know though, it is 6 years, but we redo it every year. So it's 6 years forward, but it isn't like you have to wait 6 years before you
Can do something.
go live
Okay,
it back and
so
see.
make sure.
It gets changed every year.
Okay, and just because for us, the perception is, we'll talk about it, we'll give them a little something, but then we're not gonna do anything. And that's what we get over and over and over again as a community, and that's the frustration, is we'll come out, we'll meet, we'll look, it's like what Kirk's going through
Well,
with his backyard, and now we're saying,
Well, those people are staff people who are trying to make sure that when city council gives them the money to do it, that they've got the plan to follow through with it.
okay.
So don't kill the messenger on this one. If you gotta drop on people, I mean, we're the ones that ultimately make that budget. And
Well,
I
and
appreciate
I get that. But I'll just say this, I know you said don't kill the messenger, just in regards to Kirk's situation, he was telling us about where now they want to do the Army Corps of Engineers or whatever review. When we tried to get that before, nothing happened, but now the project is being put on hold, and it looks like it's gonna be another year.
Another year for both citizens. So, Kirk Clark, a board member and a citizen of Seatack. So to tie into what Tammy was addressing in regards to how it feels, and I would just tell you my personal opinion. Just like last October, the city manager was here, Mr. Gregory got up, shook his hand, said thank you, we're moving along. He's been having the issues of the system in his backyard for probably 20 years. I've been dealing with it for 15 years. Now we move forward with a referendum to help with the stormwater, to speed up the process, to fix some of these issues. And the challenge is, we're again kind of kicking the can down the street to say, okay, Army Corps engineer, it's going to take a while. Yet, we've got previous dialogue with Mr. Members who's here, reaching out, dialoguing with individuals, that this is a priority. We have 2 citizens that have a system in their backyard that supports the community, and we need to fix it. So, we've talked prior to this. I've sent you an email. I've addressed this document in regards to the Jacobs report, an engineering organization or group rather, right here in Virginia Beach. And this was submitted to the city in February, I believe, of this year. It addresses something that we mentioned here when the city manager was here talking about the referendum.
In October.
A board where citizens, representatives for this community will be on that board as we move forward with this plan. So my question is, I know you just learned about this one. Is there anybody from Seatack on this board for the flood protection program?
No one has been appointed to that board yet, and I was going to mention that next, that there is a flood protection oversight, on referendum oversight
All right,
board. The composition requirements are, it's got 7 members. It says five of them are required to have professional or educational experience with finance, engineering, landscape architecture, environmental science, and or contracting or project management. So there are 2 that are not required to have that background. The purpose of the board is really to have another set of eyes that are not city council people looking at how the money's being spent and what think it's a good idea. No appointments have been made. If there are anybody in your community that is interested in it, if they can indicate that by putting their resume and send it to me at guytower@gmail.com. I'll make sure it gets it. But you gotta have a talent bag application.
You have to do that volunteer application.
Yeah, which is.
There's a volunteer application.
It's called the talent bank application.
That's what's called talent.
Just go on the city website and put in the talent bank application. It'll take you to the page and you can fill it out. You can either submit it electronically or you can mail it or deliver it back to the.
Is there, well, if there is a specific way to submit for it, please,
Yeah.
definitely share. The other thing, in this white paper, it addresses all the examples that are used that actually tie into the citizens of the community. All right, so you mentioned the 5 in regards to having expertise, but who dictated that it's 5 in regards to the oversight? Was there any input in regards to the community as to how this oversight is going to go in the same context of coming to the community to say, hey, we want you to vote for this referendum?
Well, in terms of the makeup of the board, it was recommended, and I'm not sure how, I don't recall who, probably Mr. Moss, he was very involved, and he may have been the one who recommended it. But they've done it before, and I think this just is the same type of oversight board they had the last time they did a bond referendum. They wanted to have, it's a citizen board, but they wanted to have a good, healthy amount of expertise on it, so that it could do its job, really, which is really oversight of a very technical, very high-level, expensive project.
The only other thing with that, sir, is the city is doing projects at times to this whole plan right now. So where's the oversight? The board is not created. How do we know it's being feared? That's part of what's being addressed right now in this situation. Because as I've addressed, we have 2 citizens that have a system in their backyard that has been addressing this for a long period of time. So where do we get that oversight? Where do we get
The
that support?
oversight is specifically tied to the money that's spent from the bond referendum proceeds.
And this white letter addresses more than just the monies. It addresses the fairness of it, the equity, the contracts that are being, utilized for this process. It addresses a whole lot more than just the money in itself. So. But it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Who appoints the committee then?
City council.
Okay.
So, as I said, at this point, all I can do is welcome yours, Kurt, or anybody else's who lives in Seatack that feels like they would like to participate in that board. I'd be happy to help see if I can get them on.
And if there's any way possible also, sir, to make us a priority on the Army Corps of Engineers list so we can get our backyards.
Right, so obviously we can't control the Army Corps of Engineers, but to the extent we can advocate a priority system of doing that, I certainly will do that. Anybody got any other questions, anything else you want to talk about?
That's called the flood oversight, is that?
It's called the Flood Prevention Bond Referendum Oversight Board.
And there's a white paper that was done on the, once everything was approved, there was a white paper that was done by the Jacobs Engineering Group.
That's the group that was hired by the city to basically give a guidelines for implementation of the proceeds program. So this group would have oversight of the decisions made, which would essentially be by staff, mostly of that. So it's just another public body that we created to have a more direct contact with the citizens over spending money.
So that's a committee that's not formed. What about committees that are formed? I know often I go to the city council meeting and there's just a list of names and they're approving them. So how does that?
Well, another board that I was going to mention is the Independent Citizen Review Board, which you may have heard that's the board that is being organized to.
Is that for the police department?
Right. It's called the Independent Citizen Review Board. That one's got, we have not made any points to that board yet either. And that one has 13 members. 2 of them have to have law enforcement experience. And the charge to the city council and the ordinance that created this was that it should reflect the demographic, racial, gender identity, and socioeconomic, socio-economy of the city. 2 members who are over 40, and then people should be chosen on the basis of their expertise and experience in fields related to the performance of the board's duties. So you're going to have a mix. I think you'll probably have, they can have 2 non-voting people with law enforcement experience. You won't have any city employees or their family members, no public office holders or candidates, no current employee of any law enforcement agency, no convicted felons with some exceptions, no persons convicted of any misdemeanor involving moral turpitude, such as sex offense, domestic assault, or offenses involving children as victims or gun violations, currently or previously subject to a protective order, less than honorable discharge from the military, multiple DUI convictions within 10 years, any pending criminal charges or adjudication, outstanding judgments, pending litigation against the city or law enforcement officers. So that will exclude a few people.
Yeah, I was thinking
Sure.
that's 13.
But anyway, it's going to be a 13-member commission. It's not by district or anything. It's entirely up to the council. But I would love to have somebody from this area. Those are the 2 that I thought was most important. There are some other ones that are open, not Parks and Rec. I want to make sure. Who's your Parks and Rec representative from the Beach District? I'm not even sure.
Are you still on there? I'm still on there. So she's sitting right there.
Good. Get her an answer on with Parks and Rec.
She wants to be on that board. I am the city liaison to the public. I happen to know there is a vacancy on that as well. I'd love to have any. There is a list of all the city boards and commissions on the website. And any of them that you're interested in, I'd urge you to file a talent bank application that indicates your interest and it shows what your qualifications are. And let me know, send me an email when you do it so I know it's in there. Because I look at that talent bank periodically, but I don't look at it all the time. Okay, thanks very much.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Do you-
Okay. I need to know if these programs are in the budget. Is the CARE Act money in the budget?
Well, I know that we have some money that I think is not, I'm not sure it's from the CARE Act, it's from the ARPA, American Rescue Plan money we still got to give away. I don't know the answer to your question, Gigi. I'm not that immediately familiar with it, but I can find out.
Okay. My other question is the Public Property Educational Act, how does that work?
I couldn't guess it. Again, you tell me the name of that.
Public Property Educational Act.
Public Property Education. I'm
issue with DD Thrive was that, and this was United Way, they wanted to have a space in our area near the ocean front or Seatack in which they could meet and assist clients. But what they wanted was a free space.
Free.
They wanted access to Wi-Fi. They wanted phone lines. They wanted private meeting spaces. They wanted security. They wanted somebody on the premises while they were there. And they wanted it all for free, but they get paid to do it. So, you know, we might have been born yesterday, but right. So that's why they're not using any of our churches, because that's insane.
Well, that's probably quite an imposition to do.
I can forward you the email so you can see.
I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah. So
And I don't know where they ended up.
I don't think they are down here. I know that they're doing stuff, because I've seen, like, they gave away food at the, I'm not good time. At the amphitheater. So, but I'm not seeing much that's being done. I know that you gave them the money as oversight, like a pass-through, but I'm just saying, if the money's supposed to come to the people, I don't see it happening. But that's it. I'm gonna let you go because I got
This
two.
one had a question.
Oh, got
Well,
it.
I'll be quick. So Dominion Energy is going to build offshore wind turbines, and they're going to be looking to bring the line to shore,
Mhm.
the cable, and it's going to go through this community. And I think that could be a potential future pot of money to help with the rec center or other parts of the Seatack.
Well, I'm actually on the C valve. I'm on the advisory group, so I've been working with them. So I do know that part, and I've checked. So we've been getting a lot of benefits. They've been working with us to do the innovation. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We got
My question is,
Gigi. We got it, because we still got two people. We'll get I'm sorry, we got
I was going to 3 minutes, and if I was going to use that 3 minutes, I would use it in telling you that I am up again for school board, a candidate for that for 2022. And I just want to let you know that I am still advocating to make sure that every child has a successful educational journey. And I want to continue family engagement as well with the school system. That has been a really big concern that's going out, that we don't engage with families or parents. That is for young truth, and we are still engaging with the parents as well. And I also want to make sure that we continue to have a sustainable recruitment and retention for programs for our teachers, bus drivers, and staff. As you know, if you didn't see the meeting, as you know, last Tuesday night we talked about we need 300 plus school drivers. We are down 144. And that does not count when 16 or 20 of them have to go on sick leave. So we are really, they gave us several options of what we could and what we could not do. And one of the options was to maybe have the National Guards to pick up our students, or the students that's walking, our walking policy is it's a mile from school, and they're going to put you to a mile and a half so they can walk. I'm already cringing when I see those little people walking a mile. So, and then the other option was to just stop all the transportation of the buses for our academies. Now, those academies play a strong part in our education institution. And each one of our high schools has an academy. And these academies have done really well by our students, getting scholarships, going to college. And a lot of them come out going to the military. Matter of fact, Bayside High School, the academy, the science academy at Bayside High School is now recruiting our students to be lifeguards. They go over to Williams Farm, take the class, take the certification, because we're down lifeguards. This is why our rec center are going into that. This is why our rec center had to cut back the hours of the swing, cut back the hours on a lot of the aquatic things that we have, because we do not have enough lifeguards. Now they're starting at the age of 16. our school system works really, really well with the park and rec system and getting our students in and out. I was hopefully looking for Ms. Owens, and said she's gonna be in our meeting last meeting we had on Wednesday. And they really talked about Seatack, center and engagement that we have, have with Seatack. Matter of fact, it's two of us that sit on that commission, myself and Mr. Hugh Tierney. We're always plugging for Seatack, always plugging to make sure that we get the benefits that they're going to have. But as Mr. Cushman said, they're not asking city council for too much of anything because of the budget. And the reps and the down staff, big time. But we're really pushing and advocating for it. But I just want to let you know, as a Virginia Beach City Public School member right now, who is still transparent, who is still engaging, and who is still accountable, I want you to deposit your vote into a school board member that still continue to do all of these things. We had a pretty rough 2.5 years, but I'm still standing and I'm still advocating for our English students as a second language. I'm still advocating for books in our libraries and in our schools. I'm still advocating for those things that tend to turn another curve, because we just implemented a new a new resource. And this resource is something like, and I will tell you, if you look at it like Wikipedia, everybody know about Wikipedia? It's something like that, but it's for teachers. And it's allowing the teachers to go into the system and be able to do a better job with their curriculum. It's not our curriculum, it's just another resource. It's not a resource in teaching about pedophiles. It's not a resource in teaching about sex trafficking. It's not a system in teaching about trafficking at all. It is just a system that's going to allow our teachers to be more effective and sufficient in their school or work. But I would encourage you to go out, vote for me. Deposit your vote in the person that you know is accountable. Do that again. I also have my list here for my list to be signed for my voters list so that I'm certified as a person to run for the school board. I would love to have your signature, and my zone is zone 6 now. So let's reach up to the top of 4th story, comes all the way down to, it stops right at General Blue, stops right at Seatack Elementary School. And then it reaches over to Lincoln Park down to Great Neck, Lincoln and Great Neck. So that is zone 6. So I'm looking for you all to sign the petition. I don't take your vote for granted. When I ask you questions later, please do so. I am here and so much more to talk on, but Ms. Wright said I only had 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Did I do good?
You did good.
Thank you.
What did you say, I had 2 hours?
I'm so sorry.
Tomorrow.
I'm
Is it okay?
so sorry. And we started late. That was part of our fault.
It's okay. It's good to be here. It's following Councilman Tower and Board Member Shelton, Sharon Felton. It just reminds me of 2 old adages that I've heard throughout my life, but I've learned especially about in public life. 80% of life showing up. And we got a big election coming up. And, this is not a presidential election. This is not a gubernatorial election. This is a big election. This is big. It's a big election. I mean, I'm not kidding.
Yes, it is.
And there's a whole lot of changes going on, and people are going to find an excuse to say, well, I didn't know about that, or I'm not sure about this. Well, I'm sure about this. The future of the city is dependent on people showing up. She just described her district, and if folks that live within 3 miles of here don't show up, it's going to be bye-bye to Sharon Felton. And I'm foursquare behind her. I've worked with her for years, for 2 terms, and I can tell you she's one that when she has something to say, she says it. When she has something to ask about, she asks about it. And if you want to find somebody to work with, that'll tell you, I can help you with this, or I can't help you with that. She's straight up. She's great to deal with. I'm going to give one other shout out too.
before I start talking about taxes and get y'all's blood pressure all up, there are three people that have helped what I'm going to talk to you about, basically a tax reduction on your cars and things like that over the last several months. And one of them sitting right there. And he's the first one that started in December to get these kind of issues before the city council, before the end of the year. About 1,000 senior citizens are going to be relieved of their personal property tax. As he introduced the bill, introduced the ordinance, the council passed on March 15th. Save about around $150. These are older cars on average. They're senior citizens that are disabled. Senior or disabled citizens with low income. So it works out to about 1,000 senior citizens in Virginia Beach will not get a tax bill this year because he introduced this legislation. Councilman Rouse and Councilmember Wooten also participated actively in this. They didn't just vote for it, or they didn't just say, yeah, sounds like a great idea. They listened and they said, I'll lead the charge on that. So that's examples of people showing up. And I'm not just talking to you, Tammy, but as a leader of this group, I'm just trying to point out that it's important that people just don't assume that, okay, I voted for that person, I hired him, and why do they do that? They know what I like. You know, it's kind of like when I would call my mom at home and I'd say, she'd say, you coming home for dinner? And I said, well, what's for dinner? She goes, don't worry, it'll be good. You know, in other words, I'm not telling you what I'm fixing for dinner. So when you hire somebody, you can't just assume like that. You have to say, look, I'm going to show up for them. The other thing I was going to say too is that you need to ask. I heard you talking about capital improvement at the rec center 6 years out. That's another adage in politics too. Everybody ever watch roller derby?
Yeah.
Ever watch roller derby? Go to church about I get home to church about 12 or 15 and a lot of people get home a little bit later. That's what I would do. Roller derby. And how do they succeed?
And let that person swing around.
Swing somebody forward. There's some big dude in the back, or a lot of times when the girls were doing roller derby, and she would swing that person forward and they slide underneath and get a hit. Well, that's kind of what could happen with this guy. I mean, he may be a candidate for city council, and this guy may help swing him forward. You never know. But the 6-year plan, you talk to these folks can work together.
Okay.
All right, that's unrequested but free advice.
We don't keep talking.
All right, so I had a handout here, and it's 6 pages. And I'm here to tell you the first 4 pages you don't need to look at. You can take it home and maybe read it before you go to bed tonight. But the first 4 are all the legal documents that the city council was referred to and voted on. And what they did is they basically reduced your personal property tax not just by 25%, but they increased the benefit by an additional 6 or 7% that you would normally get on the first $20,000 of your car's assessment. So I'm just going to pluck a few lines out of page 1. Page 1 says that the Virginia Constitution requires tax assessments to be both uniform and reflect fair market value. Calendar year market for vehicles has been distorted by supply chain, semiconductor and chip shortages, and labor constraints. The cumulative effect of these distortions is unprecedented and increased the valuation of vehicles, particularly used vehicles. Vehicles typically that depreciate in value, but this is not the case in the current climate. So I went to City Council when I got the assessments from my assessment software that assessments had all gone up, even on old cars which tend to depreciate because of the elements I just discussed. And there was going to be about a $43 million windfall in revenue to the city council. And I think they realized that, well, that's the fair market value, but at the same time, this is an unexpected growth. Frankly, the growth is usually around 5%, a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the year, in the overall fleet value of their cars. This year it was over 40%. So they said, well, what can we do? And I pointed out a few options. One was lower the rate, which was a little sketchy because there's a law that was just signed into law that was going through the General Assembly at the time, and it was not a clear choice. So it may not have been drawn into law by the time they needed to finalize their budget, and by the time I needed to be able to make a determination on how I'm going to be assessing these cars. I needed to know that by March 15th. The second option was to work with me and agree on an assessment ratio, meaning instead of taking 100% of the fair market value, we reduced it to something that better reflects the market, really what the general growth would normally be in the market, as opposed to this super. And the third option was to do nothing and take the money. Well, they didn't. They didn't take the money. They said, no, the taxpayers should be paying. Should be paying more on these expected depreciating assets just because of supply chain problems and, quite frankly, a distortion in the market. That's what I told them. And I believe there's a distortion. So the choice was, let's go to the ratio. And we worked with the budget department, and the city council approved a 25%, that's right, 25% reduction in the way I'm going to assess your car. On top of that, now this gets a little complicated, so don't get lost and don't get stuck on this. You remember 25 years ago when Governor Gilmore ran for governor and said, I'm going to get rid of your car tax. And, well, he got rid of a lot of it, but not all of it. 70% of the first 20,000 assessed. So if you got a car for $19,000 or $20,000 or less, 70% of your assessment would be written off. The state would pay for it, and you'd only have to pay 30%. Anything over that, you have to pay 100%. And the city gets a fixed amount of money every year on that. And usually they take about 45% of it, of your bill off. This year they took over almost 52%. So that's an additional 7% off. So now go to page 5, where it says 2022 personal property tax. You can look at some comparisons. You have a 2019 Toyota Camry that I assessed at $21,800. And see that PPTR? That's where the state would give you 45%, 45.5% off on the first 20,000. That would bring your tax down to $508. Okay? In a normal year, that would have happened. But then we're going to take an additional 25% off of that. And that's going to bring it down to $16,000, from $21,800 to $16,350. So you're going to end up paying a tax of tax savings, of $186.23. You'll pay $321.77. With the city's new amount of 50.8%. So instead of taking that 364, but it is. The final tax amount is right. You'll save $186.23. So those three first cars there are all ones that would qualify for the first 20,000 being adjusted down. The last two cars in that group, they're cars that are owned by businesses. So they don't get the state benefit, but they still get some benefit. But let's go to the third car, the 2021 Cadillac Escalade, that I think, Sharon, didn't you just get one of those for $97,450?
Figured it out.
Yeah. And so, with the 25% reduction, it would come down to $73,000. And you would get $400 in change from the state, and you get $2,500 off. Excuse me, you pay $2,500 instead of $3,500. You basically save about $1,000 in tax. It's still a lot. So when you get your bill, you're gonna see a lot of terminology and language on there. And essentially, there are two things that are going to happen. You're going to see your assessment, and you're going to see the reductions that are on there. And if you have any questions about those, because if your car is an average or pristine condition, that's pretty much where it's going to be. But now go to page 6. If your car has high mileage or any damage, you can appeal with me, just like you have been able to for 25 years. How many people have been to the driving tax appeal program? That's less than 50%. You never appealed on mileage or anything?
I've never, what's that?
High mileage? Usually a little more than 12,000.
One time it went up.
You did?
Last time it went.
That's because you watched it. Did it really go up?
It went up, though.
Well, yeah, see, fair is fair, but
I'm
is
just,
it a business vehicle?
No,
We gotta go.
it was under assessed.
It was under assessed?
And I didn't,
Well, don't scare all these people away, but at the same time, I mean, I rarely hear about that. We did about 25,000 vehicles last year out of 400,000 assessed. And during COVID, it became problematic to try to deal with the drive-through and masks and all of the logistics of that. So we were able to transition to online. And I checked with the city attorney approved in the manner of us accepting photos online with an affidavit where you make a sworn statement based on these photos showed the condition of your property. So you look in all the fine print there, it's based, the appeal must be based on high mileage or condition. And you may include up to 5 pictures and email to this point right here in red. And you don't even need to come down. You can email and get a tax reduction. And if you do so after June, if you've already paid your bill and you find out about this or somebody you tell about it later, they can get a refund. We can still handle it, process your request, and refund your taxes if there is a reduction.
do you wait till you get the bill before you do it?
Yeah, you gotta get your bill. Yeah. I can't produce something out of that. I'm sorry. You do receive that. Anyway, so that's the thing. I wanted to get back and talk to you all about this month, because on May 1st, you're going to get a bill. You're probably going to get a bill. And it looks too complicated for you. The City Council has worked with me to reduce your assessment by 25%, and the City Council has also made a decision to give an additional 7% reduction on, or increase in the break that you get from the state. So your assessments all went up this year, all of them. But these reductions will help bring them back into a normal zone. And if you have a question, call me. Because I'm the one that made the assessment, and I'm the one that needs to be able to explain everything. I hope that you find this helpful, and I hope that you've got my business card, you have all my phone numbers on there, and I hope that answers your question. Any questions, Mr. Clark?
You know my name, that's scary. Veterans.
everybody
How does it impact veterans? Does it make a difference in regards to veterans that are already qualified for a discount? Is that on top of it, or?
Well, this would apply to all folks,
Okay,
even,
so it'll be an additional.
in addition, it doesn't matter, you're gonna also qualify for certain benefits as a veteran.
With
But
that.
active duty military that are here on orders, they're exempt from the tax. But,
Well, you got the disabled veterans, you know,
we
that,
already have all these
Yeah.
programs in place.
right.
If you go, did you get my handout? You can go to vdgov.com/COR and it'll explain all of those.
All right, but I'm saying, in the 25, if you already get that, then 25% gotcha. Last question, the 43 million, I'm sorry, 43 million that you addressed in the beginning, right? Now, when you look at doing your assessment for, you know, helping out with that 25% and then an additional 7%, is there a total number that you came up with to get that 25% to where you're able to not go over that 43? Or is it a certain percentage of that 43 million that's, you know?
The amount was larger than 43. That was the expected amount after we had made some calculations on what the treasurer would be able to collect in a normal environment. And then the budget office for the city made some calculations. Now, can you pose your question one more time? You said something over 43.
I might need
Yeah.
to ask him afterwards.
Yeah, well-
Gigi, I was speaking, we're already past the
Okay.
time.
I'll send that.
I just want to say that if you came by the way of Seatack, and if you enjoyed this land, and you were at the rec center, when they had the two-room building, you need to be at that meeting, public hearing on April the 20th. And you need to get there by 5 o'clock, so you can stand up and you can speak for Save Your Rec Center. And I am not joking. Y'all know I don't usually talk. I listen. But if you came by the way of Seatack, don't listen to anybody what they gotta say. You be there April the 20th. 5 o'clock. Sign up and speak to Save Your Rec Center.
Tell it.
Because you can't get in the room if you get there late, we want you in the room. So we're gonna go ahead and close, if everybody can stand. I know it says presence report and membership, but we're out of time, so we're gonna just go right to our closing and have our benediction. Thank you so much. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Judge, for coming out tonight. Father God, we thank you for this meeting. We thank you for the wealth of knowledge that we received on tonight. Help us to be good stewards of what we have received. And as we leave this meeting, but not your presence, give us traveling mercy as we travel home. Amen.
Amen. Good job, everyone.